this guide requires a minimum set of skills which I will show later on. But if you are just starting out ETH, there's a way for you to get the necessary skills points for such skills. You can get 1 million skill points using a friend refer code. I highly encourage you to use one of your friends' refer code, since they get bonus from recruiting people. But if you don't have anyone who can provide you with a code, I will link my own personal refer code in the video description. Okay, here I'm gonna show you guys the hotkeys that I most use while playing ETH, while inside a station, and while manually piloting in Abyssal Deadspace. The first one is the Alt-C, which is the inventory key. Here you can access not only the station inventory, but also your ship inventory. Then we have the Alt-A key, which brings us up your character window, character sheet. The Alt-F hotkey, which is the fitting window where you can simulate your ship. The Alt-R key, which is the regional market hotkey. This is where you buy and sell stuff. The Alt-P key, people and places, which I use to move to the Abyss safe spot that I create, where I use the filaments to access the Abyssal Deadspace. And the Ctrl-B, which mark my current location, which I also use to create a safe spot. Now for the manual piloting commands that I most use. I think the most important one you guys should know is the stop command, which is Ctrl space. This makes your ship stop, as you can see. Then we have the orbit command, which next is the target command. Here's a target that I want to lock up. I hold Ctrl and click on the target. As you can see, it is locked on. Then I have the approach command, which is the Q, which you can also use to move to a place in the space. So you click once, then you choose the height, and you click twice. It will move to that location. Or you can simply hold Q and hit and choose a target on the overview or a locked target. You will approach it. Then we have the W hotkey, which is the orbit, and the orbit distance will be the one that you have selected as a default, in my case 500 meters. Hold W and click the target. I will start orbiting it. Then there's the E hotkey, which is the keep at range command. It's the same thing, and you will start keeping at range at your designated default keep at range distance. Now let me stop my ship. You can also access these commands with the radio menu. Here you can see we have the unlock command and the lock command, the orbit, which once you hover it, it's the default range you have set, but you can choose another distance up to 30 kilometers. We have the keep at range and the open cargo, and a lot of other commands that you can access, even an extra one here. You can use the radio menu on the target itself, on the overview, or on the locked target. These are the most commonly used hotkeys on Abyssal Space for me. You also have the hotkeys for your modules, which show in their info box. The attack is the F1. Here is the Alt F1, but you can also bring it here. As you can see, it details the hotkeys. You can leave it like this, so you can easily access them with F1, F2 and F3. Then we have the look at command, which is the C key, the track I mean. With the track command, you can, if you don't know where the enemy are, you can simply hold C and choose the enemy. You will keep him tracked. You also have the look at command, which moves your camera to the enemy. You can stop using this by holding Alt again and clicking an empty space. The same thing goes for the track. You click an pace while holding the hotkey and you stop tracking the target. You can also access commands about the target you are selecting here in this box. It gives you all the possible commands. And these are the most used hotkeys that I use. There are a lot more, so you can check the shortcuts in the settings. But these are the ones that I most use while running Abyssal Deadspace. Here I will show how I set my overview and settings for Abyssal Deadspace. The first thing to do is to disable the camera shake and camera bobbing. This way you get rid of possible screen shakes that might disturb your manual piloting. The next step is to personalize the radio menu options. I like to set it to my right mouse button and set the delay to the minimal possible. Here I also like to set the window transparency to 50. This is the radio menu. It allows you to quickly access commands in a compass rose fashion. This way you avoid having to read the commands and just memorize their locations with time. The next step is to get rid of the default overview mode. We will be using the ZS overview, which is a commonly used overview overhaul made by players themselves. Now you just gotta follow these simple steps. Load the ZS score first. Then the ZS PVX1. Then choose a layout. I personally prefer the ZS standard version. Now, as you can see, you get a reworked, improved version of the overview. You will be using mainly the airplane tab, which is the travel tab used to move around, the combat tab, and the misc tab, the miscellaneous tab that contains usually the loot you will get in the Abyss. I'll get into more details about the tabs once we are inside the Abyssal Deadspace. Since I'm usually just an Abyssal runner, I like to disable the Alliance and Corporation columns so that I can move my velocity and transversal velocity tabs closer, rearranging them like this. Finally, keep in mind that this is just my own personal way of setting the overview. You can find better guides on how to use the overview on the internet. Even though this guide allows you to jump into Abyssal Deadspace on your first day in EVE, it is highly recommended that you first complete the tutorials, since they will not only give you experience on how to start manual piloting in EVE, but also will give you the money necessary to buy the ship you will need to use in Abyssal Deadspace. But then there's also the career agents, which will help you get into more details into the many activities you can do in EVE. And once you complete the tutorials and the career agents missions, if you still don't have the money necessary to buy the fit for the Abyssal Deadspace, you can do the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc, which works like an advanced tutorial, and the missions you do in it pay really good ISK. You will need around 10 million ISK to buy the fits that I show here on this video guide. Just keep in mind that Abyssal Deadspace is a hard activity, and there's always the chance you can lose your ships. Once you are done with the tutorials, the career agents, and even possibly the Epic Arc to get enough money to buy the fit, your next goal is to find your faction trading hub, which is usually a place where you can buy items at a cheaper price. The Amarr trading hub is the Emperor Family Academy in Oris. Here now we can set it as a destination in our routes. Now, as you can see in our overview, our current route will be the one displayed in a yellow color. Now, all we have to do to follow our current route into our destination is to keep activating the yellow stargates. Here we have arrived in the Emperor's Family Academy. Here in the route display, you can click the A button to open up the options menu for routes and autopilot.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Okay, now that we have arrived in the Amarr Trading Hub, our next step will be to open the Abyss Solo Frigates chat channel, which will contain all the feats we will be using on this video guide. It will also contain a lot of useful information related to Abyssal Deadspace. As Amarr, the feat we will be using is the Punisher. This is the simulation window. It shows all the related information to the feat you are simulating. Here it shows the skills we lack to be able to fly this ship. And here any fitting issues you might have. Here in this information tab, we can bring up a menu containing all the detailed information of the specific ship. If you ever want to specialize yourself in a particular ship, you can bring up these mastery windows. It gives you a progressive skill plan so that you can master this particular ship. But we won't be using this today, because I already know the skills we will need to be able to fly the Punisher correctly in Abyssal Deadspace. Okay, so this is how you redeem the 1 million skill points you get by using the friend refer code. Okay, so let's start leveling our skills. You first add them to our training queue, and it is up to 24 hours for alpha clone states. For omega it's unlimited. And once you're done, you click the apply skill buttons, which will use our stocked skill points to level up the skills in the training queue. Pay close attention to the skills I'm leveling now, because once you level a skill up, there's no going back. I'm gonna fast forward now, but remember that you can always pause the video to see which skills I am training. Lastly, while not necessary yet, since it is really expensive, I highly recommend you guys get the thermodynamics skill. It allows you to overheat your modules in Abyssal Deadspace, which can save your lives in tough situations. Now, as you can see, our fit is ready to go. There's no more fitting issues as well as no more incomplete skills. Now, as you can see here, we have attained Mastery Level 1. And the only reason we haven't attained Mastery Level 2 is because of a skill that is not useful in Abyssal Deadspace. It's more of a PvP skill. So let's fit our Punisher now. First thing to do, we will have to buy the Punisher itself. You bring the market menu with the Alt-R hotkey. Here in the search tab, we search for the Punisher itself in the Ships tab. Now you can click on the price so that the cheaper one shows first. I usually buy the cheaper one in my station, unless there's another one that's way cheaper in another station, not so far away. Having bought our Punisher, we press Alt-C to open our inventory, where we can find the Punisher in the ship hangar. Here we can right click and choose Assemble Ship, or we can simply double click the ship itself. With the ship assembled or unpackaged, we can now right click and choose Make Active, or we can again simply double click it. As you can see, we have now boarded our Punisher, but it still doesn't have any modules equipped. With the Punisher as our active ship now, we simulate that fit again, and now all we have to do is to click the Fit Ship option. It will now show all the items we don't have in our inventory to fit it. So it shows the option to buy them all. So now we have to wait the menu to load all the items that we will have to buy. As if you can see in the bottom, it shows the prices. Once we buy all the items, they go straight to our inventory. So we will have to press the Fit Ship button again. And now we have our fully equipped Punisher. Here in the Punisher inventory, we can now drag our ammo to equip our weapons. And as you can see now, the fitting window simulates our DPS. Another thing you can do to simulate the DPS on a simulated fit is to open the Weapons Information tab, the Used With tab, and drag any weapon type you want into your ship. Here you can open more information related to your ship, like the defense, the targeting, the navigation, and the drones tabs. Now that our ship is ready to go, we will buy the filament item necessary to access Abyssal Deadspace. As you can see in the Abyss Solo Frigates chat channel, I recommend doing electricals for this fit. Just remember that as a solo frigate, you need to activate 3 filaments at a time, even though you are going alone. Lastly, you can always right-click your ship and make an insurance contract, so that if you end up losing your ship, you get paid for it. Okay, now I will show you guys how I make a safe spot. It's a point in the map where there's nothing nearby, so that only you can warp drive to. The only way another player can warp drive to that location is if they scout you with probes, or if you link them the saved location. So here I am moving to a Stargate. We will use this Stargate as an initial point to creating the safe spot. Okay, so here's the catch now. We will move to another Stargate, and once we are in the middle of the travel distance, we will hit Ctrl B and save the location. So I already opened the menu with Ctrl B. As soon as I am in the middle of both Stargates, I will hit the submit button. And here we just created our safe spot. Now all we have to do is to travel to it. We do that by opening the People and Places menu with the Alt-E key. Here in our personal locations, we can see the safe spot. And as I like to do, I rename it as a Abyss safe spot. Just keep in mind that it is not exactly a safe spot, since another player can find you here if they really want to and if they have the means to it. But overall, even if you are located in a trade hub, you shouldn't be having problems with people pestering you, especially because you are flying a solo frigate, which are not gank worthy since they are really cheap. Okay, once here, let's make our final preparations. Here you can drag and drop your modules to organize them. Most folks like to leave the active modules on top and the passive ones on bottom. Now we will set our default orbit distance. For this Punisher fit, we will be setting at 7,800 because of our optimal and fall-off ranges, since the orbit command always adds a little more distance, making so that our default orbit stays between our optimal and fall-off ranges. Now we will set our default keep at range distance based on our longer range ammo. Both this ammo and this keep at range command will be used to deal with a specific type of enemy called Tessera. Here you can personalize your ship health alert settings. And here you can activate the tactical overlay. It allows you to get a more strategic view, showing the distance from your ship. And you can hover your mouse on your weapon to show the range of your weapons as well. And now for the final preparations, we must be in a fleet to be able to activate the filaments for solo frigates. And now once in a fleet, we can finally activate them. let us begin our first Abyssal Deadspace. The first thing I do once I'm inside an Abyssal Deadspace is to hold the C button and click an enemy. This way it will show me exactly where they are. And now that I know where the enemies are, I start to activate my modules and head in their direction. These are Tessela drones. They are weak drones that spawn in high numbers, and they only start to apply their DPS on you at 10 kilometers or less. With the Punisher, you want to approach them and orbit them with our default orbit range that we have set. If you aren't hitting them a lot, you can always move into just one direction, and since they will be following you, they won't have a high transversal, so you will be able to hit them easier. But I usually prefer to just orbit them. But here right now I'm showing you, I'm heading straight into one direction, and since they are following me, I'm starting to hit them more easily. As you can see on their name, the prefix indicates what type of damage they deal. On this room in particular, we got only Spark Needle Tessellas, which deal electromagnetic damage only, which is the most dangerous damage we can receive in Electro Abyss, because we do a penalty to our electromagnetic resistance. As you can see in the fitting window that I opened back there, you can see that our fit inside the Electro Abyss is a stable fit, which means it will never run out of power. And if you noticed when we were applying our skills and fitting our ship, outside of the Electro Abyss, this fit is not stable. So this is the reason why we fly electricals only with this fit, because it gets stable with the capacitor recharge rate bonus Electricals Abyss provides. And now that we killed the last enemy, the portal opens, but before we enter it, we will now blow up the biocombinative cache. This is the loot container that contains 3 times the loots for solo frigates when compared to cruisers. It only shows in the overview combat tab, but once we blow it up, the loot itself will show in the miscellaneous tab. Here we got a battleship room. In this particular type of room, we want to approach them with high transversal. You do this by double clicking an empty space a bit to the side of them. This way they won't hit you much while you are approaching them. I think this tactic of approaching battleships is most commonly known as the spiraling technique. As you can see, even though it showed that it hit me in the animation, he is actually missing me. The closer we get, the more we adjust our double click space, so that we approach him with the spiraling technique. Once you get close enough, you can just simply orbit him at 500 meters. Here I don't know why I actually orbit him in a higher distance, but as you will see, I will start to orbit him at 500 meters. Now all you have to do is to wait for it to die. Now we loot the biocombinative cache and head to our last room. The last room of this Abyssal run is yet another battleship room, so we do the same spiraling technique that we did against the Abyssal Overmind. This is the Karybdis Tyrannons. It's commonly named Karen by the community, because for cruisers it's one of the most dangerous rooms, while for frigates it is not really that dangerous because it always misses when you use the spiraling technique. Once you get close enough, you want to orbit the battleship at 500 meters. And since the Punisher can not only tank the other enemies, but also it has a limited range, I prefer to kill the battleship first, because then once the battleship is dead, I can orbit the other enemies at the optimal range to have a better application of my DPS. You don't have to worry about the other enemies attacking the Punisher, because he can tank tier 1 enemies that spawn together with battleship room. And now we just completed our last room in this Abyssal Deadspace run. All we have to do now is to loot and to get out via the origin conduit. So here, as you can see, without counting the ammo that we brought initially, we made around 5 million profit. While you are starting out in Abyss, every time you finish and complete an Abyss run, I highly recommend you return to your station, in this case the trading hub, to deposit the items you got. Because if you enter another new Abyss run and you die there, you lose everything. But once you get comfortable enough to know that you won't die, you can complete several Abyss runs in a row only to return later to deposit the items, to save some time. Okay, now I will start to show all the most common rooms that you can find in Abyss and how to deal with each one of them. This is the Lucid Watchman room. It's an enemy that has a really good range and a really good damage application. At over 40 kilometers, he won't hit you much. But once you enter below the 40 kilometers, he will start to apply his good DPS on you. He will only start to miss again once you orbit him at 500 meters. Here you have two options once you are close enough. You can just orbit him at 500 meters, which your damage application won't be as good, but it will be enough to kill him. Or, if you're running out of time, you can orbit him at your optimal range. This will increase your damage against him, but it will also allow him to damage you a bit. So you can do this and to damage him a bit, and if he's managing to damage you a lot, you can return to orbiting him at 500 meters to recover health. But generally, orbiting him at 500 meters, it's enough to kill him in time. This is the Leshak room. It's another battleship room, but the thing is, the Leshak has better application. He can hit you more easily once you are approaching him, even with the spiraling technique. As you can see, his high tracking allows him to hit solo frigates when they are approaching him. You can increase your spiraling technique distance to approach him more safely, but since I know that the Punisher can tank a bit, I usually try to approach him a bit faster, to close the distance faster to allow me to kill him without wasting much time. But I highly recommend that you increase your transversal a bit more, so that you don't risk him getting any wrecking shots on you, which will most definitely kill you. Once you get in range, it's a really squishy enemy, considering that he spawns with most of his armor and shields damaged. Once close enough, you can just orbit him at 500 meters, instead of what like I did in the video at the default orbit range. This room is the infamous Tessera room. It's a drone battlecruiser that has insanely good tracking at around 10 kilometers. So you always want to stay over 10 kilometers from him, or else he will hit every shot he fires at you. At around 25 kilometers, I usually like to hit Control Space hotkey, which is the hotkey to stop your ship, so that it will reduce a bit of your velocity. Then we use the Keep at Range command, which we've set the default range to deal with him. And we must equip our longer range ammo to deal with him, because our ordinary ammo range it's below the 10 kilometers safety distance. So now that we have a keep a range distance, we just fire at him with our longer range ammo. It will take a bit, but he will go down. While using the keep at range command, I like to look where my ship is going, because as mentioned, the Abyss Arena has a limit, and once you reach this limit, you want to start moving to the side, like I am doing right now. This is the Abyssal limit. If you cross this wall, you will start to get damage progressively as the more you stray away from it. So now I slowly start turning to the side to avoid the wall. Now you can start slowly turning, and to make sure that you head in the direction of the biocombinative cache and the transfer conduit. This way you will go into their direction so that you don't lose much time moving to them once he's dead. You are already approaching the transfer conduit while attacking him. Now there's one thing to keep in mind when fighting the Tessera. He has a small chance that he will hit you with a wrecking shot, with you 3 times its normal damage. And it doesn't matter if you are at a safe distance. He will manage to hit the shot, but it's only a small chance. Here, it actually happened to me while I was recording him. This is the Damaviks room. It's considered by most to be one of the hardest tier 1 abyssal rooms, because the Damaviks, they wrap each other, they can repair each other remotely, and their damage ramp up with time. So the longer they attack you, the stronger their damage become. But the Punisher can deal with them pretty easily, and especially because the fit that you will be using, it's an improved version than this that I'm currently using. And it has a bit more range, so its damage application will be higher on the Damaviks. One of the Damaviks that I got in this room, it's an anchoring Damavik. This Damavik has a warp scramble ability. He can disable micro warp drives, but since we are using an afterburner fit, we don't have to worry about him. this is the Lucid Escort and Lucid Aegis room. They both act basically the same, with the difference being that the Lucid Escort is faster and can spawn with some abilities like the Warden ability here that will slow down your ship. And the Lucid Aegis is the most damaging one. It has a bigger DPS. I usually like to attack the Escort first because they will get in my range faster. They don't have a DPS strong enough to challenge the Punisher repairs. The only annoying thing about them is that since they are small and has a high transversal, the Punisher might miss them a bit. But in this run I think I was using a fit that has a smaller optimal range and fall-off range. So the newer version of the fit that you guys will be using will deal with them much easier. And as you can notice here, by this little effect that the others are using on the one that I'm attacking, they can remote repair each other. But it's not that big of a repair, but it makes them a little more tanky. This is the Vila version of the Damavik room. The difference between the Vila and the ordinary Damaviks is that the Vila has drones. Each Vila Damavik will have 3 Vila Swarmers that it can use to attack you. But the Vilas themselves, the Damaviks, will have weaker damage compared to the ordinary Damaviks. It's not a hard room at all for the Punisher, and all you have to do is to kill the Damaviks, because if you kill them, the drones stop attacking, and you don't need to lose time killing them. Just kill the hosts, and the Vila Swarmers will disable completely. This final enemy is the Lucid Deepwatcher. It's considered the most tanky enemy in Abyss, since it has an insanely high armor, capacity, and resistance. But besides that, it's not a hard enemy. He will rarely miss you, and the only thing you need to watch out is that you can't stop moving, because he launches a lot of missiles that keep stacking one after the other. And if you stop completely, they might all hit you at the same time and kill you. But it's a really hard thing to happen as long as you continue to orbit him. And once you are in orbit range, it's just a waiting game, like any other battleship. Once you have mastered the Punisher, your next step is to go to the Assault Frigate category for the Amarr. It's the Retribution and the Vengeance. Both are excellent solo frigate ships that a lot of people recommend. Unfortunately, I have never piloted them, since I don't have the skill for them, so I can't really recommend a fit for Abyssal Deadspace. But you should find easily on the internet or even in the channel, Abyssal channel, people who have proved fits for both of the ships that you can use later on. Once you are done doing the tutorials, the career missions, and even possibly the Epic Arc, your next goal will be to move to a trading hub. There you will be able to acquire your ship and its modules at a cheaper price. The CALDARI trading hub is basically the center of trade in EVE, being the biggest trading hub in the EVE universe, which is called New Eden. The CALDARI trading hub is located in Jita 4, Moon 4, in the CALDARI Navy assembly plant. Here we can set it as our destination, making it our current route. Once we do this, in the overview, the stargates that lead to our current route will be displayed in a yellow color. Now all we have to do is to keep activating these stargates until we reach our destination. And now we have reached our destination. Just remember that you can click in that A button near the route so that you can access more informations and options related to routes and manual piloting.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Now that we are inside the trading hub, our next goal is to access the Abyss Solo Frigates channel. This channel will contain the fits that we will be using in this video guide, as well as other information related to Abyssal Deadspace. As CALDARI, we will be using the Kestrel fit. This is the fitting window. We'll show all the related information to the ship we are currently using or simulating. Here it shows all the incomplete skills we need to complete first before we are able to fly the fit. And here it shows any fitting issues we might have with the current fit. And here we open the information menu related to the ship we are currently simulating. If you ever want to specialize on a specific ship, you can access this Mastery tab, which shows a progressive skill plan on how you can master this current ship. But we won't be using this today because I already know the skills we will need to make this fit work with just the 1 million skill points we get with the friend refer code. So this is how you redeem the 1 million skill points you get with a friend refer code. Now we will begin training our skills. As an alpha, you can add up to 24 hours of skill training in the training queue. For omegas, it's unlimited. Once we fill our training queue, we will hit the Apply Skill Points button. This will show how much skill points we will need to complete the skills in the training queue. Pay close attention to the skills that I will be leveling now, because once you use skill points to level them, there's no going back. I will fast forward the video now, because it takes some time, but remember that you can always pause the video to see which skills I am currently leveling. Although I didn't level here, if you ever get the money for it and the time, make sure to level at least one level of the thermodynamics skill. It allows you to overheat your modules, which can save you in tough situations in Abyssal Deadspace. We have completed leveling our skills. Now, as you can see, our fit has no fitting issues, as well as no incomplete skills. Now I'm dragging the missiles from the simulated fit cargo hold just to simulate the fit DPS. Now I'm accessing the regional market to buy the Kestrel ship itself, so that we can begin fitting our ship. Make sure to click the price tab so that you can bring the cheapest offers in your station. I usually get the cheapest one in the station, but if there's another way cheaper option in a station that's not so far away, I go for it. Now that I've bought the ship itself, I will make it my active ship. First we gotta unpackage it, which we can do by right clicking and selecting assemble ship, or simply double click, and then we choose make active, or simply double click it again to board the ship. And here we have our own Kestrel ship, but it does not contain any modules yet. Now we will try to fit the ship itself, but since we still don't have the modules in our inventory, it will show the option to buy them all. As you can see in this window, it shows all the modules we still don't have, and it gives us the option to buy them all. Now we have to wait for the modules to load, and as you can see, the sum of their prices show at the bottom. Now that we've bought the modules, they go to our station inventory, so we must click the fit ship again for them to equip our ship. And now we have our fully equipped Kestrel. Now we load the missiles in our inventory into our launchers. You can also right-click your launchers, go into Information tab and use With to see all the possible ammunition types that you can use with it. And you can also drag them from here into your ship to simulate what will the DPS be with the specific ammo. And as you can see on the right of the fitting window, it has all the related information to your current fit, such as its defensive and targeting capabilities. Now that our ship is ready, we need to buy the filaments to access the Abyssal Deadspace. As you can see in the Abyssal Frigates chat, I recommend doing electricals with the Kestrel. And keep in mind that you will need 3 electro filaments since we are doing solo frigates. Lastly, remember to insure your ships, because if you end up losing them in Abyssal Deadspace, you will at least get the price of the ship back. Just remember that it just covers the ship, it won't cover any modules or items in your inventory. Now I will show how I make a safe spot for Abyssal Deadspace. It's a place where only you will be able to warp to, unless another person scouts you with probes, or if you link them the location yourself. So I will be moving to this target just as a staging point to creating the Abyss safe spot. Okay, now here comes the important part. I will move again to another Stargate, and once I am in the middle of the travel distance, I will hit Ctrl B and save the spot. As you can see, I already bring up the save spot menu with the Ctrl B, and then as soon as I am in the middle of the travel distance, I will hit the submit button, which will create the save spot. Now all we have to do is to travel to it. Just remember that it is not really a safe spot. Another player can find you there by scouting you with probes, but since we are flying solo frigates, they aren't really gank worthy because they are really cheap. So even in trading hubs, I've never been ganked by other players, but it's always a possibility. So if you want to be extra safe, go to another system, not in the trading hub, and do the same thing, creating a safe spot in it. Now that we are in our safe spot, let's move to our final preparations before entering Abyssal Deadspace. First thing you can do here is to drag your weapons all into just one. This way they will act as if they are just one. Then you can organize the rest of your modules. Most players like to leave the active modules on top and the passive on bottom. Now we will set our default keep at range distance for this fit. I like to use our maximum missile range with it, which is 41,000 kilometers. Next, we will set our default orbit range, which for this fit I only like to set it at 500 meters, which is the distance I use to orbit battleships. Next, you can personalize your ship health alert settings. And this is the tactical overlay. It gives you a more strategic view. And while I didn't show here, if you hover your weapons, it will show their ranges in the tactical overlay. So moving on to the last preparation, to enter Abyss as a frigate, you need to be in a fleet, even though you are going in alone. You need to do this to be able to activate the 3 filaments. Now all we have to do is to activate the Abyssal trace, which will show in the Combat tab. The first thing I do once I'm inside an Abyssal Deadspace is to use the C hotkey and click it on an enemy to see where they're at. and as you can see, it will point exactly into their location. This is a Tessera Battlecruiser rogue drone. It's one of the most dangerous enemies you can find in Tier 1 Abyss. For this type of enemy, I like to use the keep at range command. I've set the keep at range distance exactly because of this enemy. You want to stay as farther away as you can from him. Because if you enter its 10 kilometers range, it will always hit you with a really damaging shot. And as you can see here, since we are in an electrical abyss, we get the 50% bonus recharge capacitor rate, which allows our feet to be stable inside it, which means we will never run out of power while using all our modules. Outside of the abyss, this feat is not stable, so if you keep all your modules active, it will run out of power eventually. This is the abyss border. If you cross this red wall, you will start to get damaged progressively, the more further you stray from it, and it can eventually kill you. Once I'm near it like this, I like to slowly move to the side. Then I like to slowly make my way back to the transfer conduit and to the biocombinative cache. This way, once the enemy is dead, I am already close enough and don't have to waste travel time to head back to them. There's one thing that you need to keep in mind when facing a Tessera Battlecruiser. There's a small chance that he will hit you with a wrecking shot, which deals 3 times his normal damage, and it will kill this fit. It actually happened while I was recording the Punisher. He managed to hit me with the wrecking shot, and it killed my ship instantly. So keep this in mind, there's always the chance that he can one-shot you. But as you can see here, it is a bit rare to occur. And since it's not really that common to encounter Tesseras, and it's really not common to get one-shotted by them, you shouldn't need to worry much. And because this feat is so cheap, since you can pay it in just 1 or 2 Abyssal runs, the eventual death you will get by a Tessera, it will be easy to replace with the money you get by farming Abyssal Deadspace. Once you've killed all the enemies in this room, your next goal is to blow up the biocombinative cache. It will show in the combat tab, but once you destroy it, the loot itself will show in the miscellaneous tab. And now that we've looted the biocombinative cache, we will enter the transfer conduit, which will take us to our next room of a total of 3. This is the Lucid Aegis and the Lucid Escort enemies. They are weak drones, but they have a strong DPS once they get close enough. The way I deal with them is, I like to kill first the Escort, since they are weaker but faster, so they will get into a range sooner. And I also like to kite away from them with the keep at range command, because this way I can kill 1 or 2 before I close in again. This way their DPS won't stack as much on my ship. This blue cloud you are seeing here is the bioluminescence cloud. It increases your signature radius by 3 times, which make it easier for enemies to hit you, especially battleships. So once you are in a battleship room, your goal is to avoid them always, or else the battleship will have a way easier time hitting you. And now that I killed one of them, the Escort, I will do the same thing I did with the Tesseras. I will slowly turn my ship back to the transfer conduit and to the biocombinative cache. This way I don't have to waste much time traveling back to them once the enemies are dead. For our last room in this room, we got the Vila Damaviks. This is a version of the Damaviks that has drones. As you can see, each Vila Damaviks contains 3 Vila Swarmers that they launch against you. Your goal here is to kill the Vila Damaviks alone. You don't need to waste time killing the drones, since this fit can't tank them well. And once you kill the Damaviks, the Vila Swarmers stop attacking, and it's not necessary to kill them to unlock the transfer conduit. The manual piloting you choose here is not really that important. If you want, you can just orbit the biocombinative cache at 500 meters. You don't need to do any kind of fancy manual piloting against them, because they are really weak. And here we have finished our last room with plenty of time left. So now we just head out of the abyss via the origin conduit. But as you can see, there are more caches around. If you have enough time, you can always go after them. But I always recommend that on your first abyssal runs, you go only after the biocombinative caches, since they are the ones that hold the most loot for solo frigates. Once you have completed an Abyssal Deadspace run, I highly recommend you return to your station to deposit the goods, because if you enter another one and you end up dying, you will lose everything. Once you get more comfortable enough to know that you can survive almost always, you can enter several times into Abyssal Deadspace and keep stacking the loot. This way you can optimize your runs for ISK per hour, since you won't waste much time traveling back and forth. And as you could see back there, we made in this run 4.5 million. And now I will show all the possible rooms that you can get in Tier 1 Abyssal Deadspace. This way you know how to deal with each one of them. This is the Lucid Deepwatcher. It's one of the battleships that can spawn in Tier 1 Abyssal Deadspace. Like any other battleship, you want to approach them using the spiraling technique. That it is actually what I'm doing here. Instead of heading right into the direction, I click a bit to the side so that I have an increased transversal. This way he won't hit me while I'm approaching him, making him miss almost always his shots. The hard thing about the Lucid Deepwatcher is not his damage output or anything. His biggest issue is his tank capabilities. He is considered the most tanky enemy you can get in Tier 1 Abyssal Deadspace. Because of this, and since the Kestrel can't get that high of a DPS with just 1 million skill points, he takes a long time to take down. I think in this run it took me almost 10 minutes just to kill him. Which means that if I get 2 of them in a single Abyssal Deadspace run, I will run out of time. Once I close my distance with the spiraling technique, if he's under the transfer conduit, I orbit the transfer conduit at 1,500 meters, and once he gets a bit farther away from the transfer conduit, I start orbiting him at 500 meters. Then it's just a waiting game. This is the Damavik room. It's considered one of the most dangerous rooms in Tier 1 Abyss, because of 2 reasons. First, they can repair each other remotely, so they get a bit tanky because of this. And the second reason is because their damage ramps up with time, the longer they attack you. So your goal is to kill them as fast as possible before their damage gets too high. I like to orbit the biocombinative cache at 500 meters when dealing with them. This can make them miss some shots, which can give you a breather room to repair some of your shields. But usually with this fit, I don't have much issues dealing with them, since I can kill one fast enough before their damage gets too high, and the other 2, my shield booster can tank just fine. Once you get the thermodynamics skill, you can always overheat your missile launchers so that you can kill the first one faster. This should make things way easier for you. this is another really specific room that I got of the 3 Damaviks. The issue here is that I can't orbit the biocombinative cache, because there's a deviant automata suppressor which will destroy my missiles before they reach their target. So I decided to move a bit to the side to get away from the range of the deviant automata, which is 15 kilometers for the short range. Then I started orbiting my target at 6,500 meters. This allowed me to kill them just fine again. This is the Lucid Watchman room. It's a cruiser ship that has really good application up to 40 kilometers. So once you are inside this 40 kilometers range of him, he will start to apply his somewhat strong DPS on you, almost certainly. So your goal here is to approach him as fast as you can and to start orbiting him at 500 meters. This way he will begin to start miss you again. And while you are on your way to him, you can start attacking the other ship that can spawn with him. Orbit the Lucid Watchman, but kill any other ship first. because the Lucid Watchman will begin to miss you once you start orbiting him. After you're done with the other ship, it shouldn't take too long to kill the Lucid Watchman. This is the Leshak room. It's another battleship room, but this one has a higher tracking capability. So you want to increase your spiraling technique distance a bit, because he will manage to hit you if you don't increase it. And as you can see here, there's the blue cloud between me and him. So I'm trying to avoid the blue cloud as much as I can, because if I enter the blue cloud, he will start to apply his DPS on me quite easily. But besides that, he's a really squishy enemy, so once you are in range, it shouldn't take too long to take him down. This is the Tessela's room. It can be a dangerous room if you allow them to gank up on you, but the goal here is to do like I did with the Tessera. You keep at range, kiting them until you can lower down their numbers. Once there are 3, you can tank them quite easily, but try to avoid them as much as you can to avoid taking too much damage. They die fast, so you can reduce their numbers quite easily. As you can see on their name, the prefix indicates what kind of damage they deal. So here in this room, we got only the Spark Needle Tesselas, which are the ones that do electromagnetic damage. This is actually the most dangerous kind of damage that you can take from them, because in Electrical Abyss, you get a penalty to your electromagnetic defense. So these will be the types of Tessellas that will do the most damage if you allow them to get in range. But since you can kite them quite easily for a bit, you can reduce their numbers. This is the infamous Karybdis Tyrannons room. And what's worse, I've spawned inside a blue fog. So as you can see, she will be able to hit me while I am inside the fog. But I've managed to see where the limit of the fog was, so I tried to get out of it as fast as I could. And as you can see here, I got out in the nick of time. So as you can see, this Kestrel fit can withstand some battleship shots, but it can't tank them indefinitely, so you need to get out of the blue fog as fast as you can. And as you can see here now, she starts to miss me always, because I don't have my increased signature radius anymore. For cruisers, the Karybdis Tyrannos I think is the most dangerous ship, because she can hit cruisers a lot easier. For solo frigates, it's actually one of the easiest kind of rooms you can get, because she always misses you. But I have another issue here. There's a Deviant Automata Suppressor near her. So what I'm trying to do here now is to herd her away from the Deviant Automata Suppressor. She tends to kite away from you, so you can basically kite her away from any possible suppressors that might be near her. She also has a tendency to hug the red wall from the abyss. If she do that, I think the 500 meters orbit range won't be enough to damage you heavily if you stray outside of the red wall, but you can also keep going just into two directions, back and forth, back and forth. She won't be able to hit you since you will be able to be below her guns, and you won't risk going outside of the wall. As you can see here, as long as you don't head straight into her direction, you have quite the liberty to move into various directions. She won't miss you because of your high transversal and your close distance. Once you are near enough, just orbit her at 500 meters. Then it's a waiting game, but she's actually one of the easiest battleships to kill. Even with the Deviant Automata Suppressor destroying some of my missiles, you will see that she doesn't take too long to take down. And once she is close to dying, I like to head the direction of the biocombinative cache, since I know she will still continue to miss me, and this way I save some time, some travel time. This is the Ephialtes Lancer. Sometimes it can spawn with the Karybdis Tyrannons and with the Lucid Watchman, as you saw, but it's quite an easy enemy to deal with. The only difference, the major difference it has from the Lucid Escort and Aegis, it's that it has a longer range. I think it's up to 20 kilometers. But you deal with them the same way you deal with the Lucid Aegis and the Lucid Escort. Just set the keep at range and kite them a bit, so that you can kill at least one or two of them before they get close enough. In this video I started attacking the Lucid Aegis first, but it's usually better to pick one of the Ephialtes Lancers first, since they are faster and will get in range to apply their DPS on you sooner. As you can see, they managed to damage me a bit, but this was because I was heading just into one direction. If you start to orbit them, they will begin to miss you more. And this should allow you to recover your shields just fine while you take them down. Remember that your missiles have 41 kilometers range, so instead of getting really close like I did to attack the Lucid Aegis, you can start kiting them sooner. This way you buy some time before they can apply their DPS on you, and should allow you to kill at least one of them before they get close enough. But once they get in range, stop kiting and orbit them, because it's by orbiting them that it will make them miss you. Like as you can see now, they are almost always missing their shots on me. And here we have the last battleship room. It's the Photic Abyssal Overmind. It's the second most tanky enemy you can get in Abyssal Deadspace. And because of this, he is a bit dangerous for the Kestrel, time-wise, because he can withstand a lot of shots, since the Kestrel with just 1 million skill points doesn't have the DPS necessary to take him down fast enough. But he is not as tanky as the Lucid Deepwatcher, so I think you can get two of them in a run and still make it out alive as long as you get an easy third room. But it is not really that common to get two battleship rooms in a row in Tier 1 Abyssal Deadspace, but it can happen. But since the fit is cheap, as long as you have enough money to buy another one in case you die, it will be really rare for you to lose the Kestrel time-wise by getting two battleship rooms in a row. But like I said, keep in mind that it is a possibility, especially if you are starting out by investing all your money in a Kestrel. This is an issue I didn't find any way to fix, because the missile skills necessary to increase the Kestrel DPS requires a lot of skill points, which isn't enough just the 1 million you get with the friend's refer code. But as long as you get around over 90 DPS with the Kestrel, you should not have more issues with battleships, time-wise. Just to give you guys an idea, while trying to get all the possible rooms to make this guy, I've made over 50 million ISK with the Kestrel without dying once. And once you get better DPS missile skills, it should become a completely safe fit. Once you have mastered the Kestrel, your next step will be to move to the Assault Frigate category, that is the Hawk. It's the most used frigate in Abyssal Deadspace, and it's a really reliable ship. But there's also another option, since the Hawk requires that you have Omega. The Hawk is only special, it only uses missiles, but if you like drones also, you can also use the Worm, which is the ship that I most use in my videos. I have proved that the Worm is capable of soloing Tier 2 Abyssal Deadspace, as well as soloing Tier 3 Abyssal Deadspace. And currently I am working on a Tier 4 solo Worm fit. So this is how I sell the loot that I get in Abyssal Deadspace. For the filaments themselves, I like to check the market to see which are the current highest selling offer and the highest buying offer, to see if I create a sell offer, or if I just sell immediately to the highest buyer. So now that I know the values, I come here to sell this item, and then I choose, would I rather sell it immediately for the highest price, or if I like to place a sell offer at a price of my choosing, for example 499.00. As you can see here, it shows the average, the regional average. This is one of the ways that I sell the filaments themselves. For the items such as the crystalline isogen or the 0 point condensate, which are one of the items that most drops, I do the same thing. I see the selling offer and the one that it's buying them at the highest price. For both of these items, I like to save them to craft possible blueprints that I loot in Abyssal Deadspace, such as the Kikimora, the Vedmak, the Leshak, all blueprints that are worthy to create the ship to later resell. But the best source of income for Abyss, in my opinion, is the Triglavian survey. The Triglavian survey, there's a catch on how to sell it. You can create a price selling offer, but there are NPC stations that buy them at a fixed price. It's the Concord they usually buy them. So what I personally do, I see the one that's closer, 7 jumps. I right click and select set destination. Then I bring my Triglavian surveys to my ship and I move all the way to that station to sell them. I usually bring up only around 50 to 100, 500 to 1000, because there's always the risk you can be ganked and destroyed, so another player can loot the Triglavian surveys from your wreck. But so far I have never been ganked because of my Triglavian surveys. So I always bring around 1000 of them to get 100 million ISK. So this is how I usually sell the items I get in Abyss. There are some rarer items that you can get, such as skill books and even Triglavian outfit. One of the things you can do actually is to bring them up to Jita, which is the best trading hub in New Eden. I'm currently located in the Galante trading hub, which is a small trading hub compared to the Jita and the Amarr one. So I can sell it at the better price here or not. It really depends on the current offers. But for the Triglavian survey, the best thing you can do is to sell them for the Concord NPC. So as you can see here, I've been following the route to the Concord station and I am one jump away from it. So let's move there. You can always use the autopilot option also, but it is not recommended if you are carrying valuable items in your inventory, because the autopilot takes more time to reach the stargates, which leaves you open to get ganked. Especially if they see that you are using autopilot. You are an easy target for gankers. As you can see, I am bringing my Triglavian survey databases. And here all I have to do now is to dock in the station.
Drive.
Once inside the station, all I have to do now is to move my Triglavian survey from my ship inventory into the station hangar. Once here, all I have to do is click sell this item. Be careful if it is immediate or not, or else you will be paying a broker's fee. So since I know the highest price, the NPC already buys it, I go to immediate. This way I avoid the broker's fee. So as you can see, I will be getting 59 million ISK by selling these databases to the NPC. And there we have it. Now all I have to do is to return to the trading hub. There's two ways you can do it easily. The first one, which is not easy, is to access the map again, search for it, and set it as a route. Or you can easily do this going to your Assets tab. Here in the Assets, you will see the stations where you have items in them. Let me open here. So every station in New Eden that you have item will show here. So since I know that it's the Dixie that is the trading hub, I will simply set destination. Now all I have to do is to leave the station and to return to my main station in the Galante trading hub. If you enjoyed the solo frigate playstyle and plan on increasing your profits with them, I highly recommend that you check out my Fund Your Own Omega guide, which is a guide that I show that the worm can solo tier 2 with a satisfactory performance. And later on, once you get experience using the worm in tier 2, you can move to the solo tier 3 worm fit that I've developed, which should be able to increase your ISK per hour considerably. But for me, flying the worm as a solo frigate is not only about making ISK. The thing I love most about solo frigate with the worm, especially in higher tiers, is the action-packed, intense gameplay and manual piloting that you get. It makes Eve feel like a flight action video game. So if this is the thing you like also, not min-maxing ISK per hour, but actually the activity itself, having fun with it while making good ISK, feel free to reach me in game or in chat. I'll gladly help you out with tips and suggestions, and even personalize a worm fit that fits your current skills. And maybe soon enough you will be able to have adventures like this. But like I said, Abyssal Deadspace is a hard activity, and eventually the worst will happen. Hope you guys enjoyed this humble video project of mine, and I hope it proves useful to many of you, allowing you guys to get a head start in EVE Online. I have a lot of respect to the EVE Online community, since it helped me so much when I was just starting out. So that's why I decided to make this video, so I could at least give something back to the community. Thank you so much for watching and having interest in this little project of mine. And remember, fly safe, Capsuleers!